Hello everyone. I'm here today with my son who's recording and we're at Canewdon Church. It's in a tiny village in Essex, not so far away from where we live, but it's a church we all grew up with locally as the haunted church. And here, certainly at Halloween, it's rumoured if you run around this church anti-clockwise, the devil himself will appear. Now, I've long been entirely fascinated by old churches, mainly because of the years of devotion that have been soaked up by the brick itself. So imagine now the sensitives out there and among you, if you were able to place your hand on, say, the brick that's possibly stood here for 600 years, just imagine what memories you could feel. Now, the other entirely interesting thing about this particular site and the surrounding area is it was also the site of the witch trials. Now, they happened, of course, all over the country, also in the States. But there was somewhere in this area something upwards of 300 women that were tried and found guilty of witchcraft. Now, of course, you're going back hundreds of years. Obviously, people's understanding of the natural ways of herbalism, of the midwife and so forth, wasn't quite in scripture. Then they would doubt and they would fear, more importantly. But this particular village was rife at that time, and so many of its inhabitants were in fear of their lives, and many, unfortunately, dunked, made to confess, and eventually then burnt at the stake or murdered in other ways. This particular church I've wrote about in a book some years ago now, Psychic Case Files. I think the chapter's called Canewdon, with a different kind of a story, maybe more in the village at that time. But I thought we would start our very first of a series of videos talking about something local, something entirely historic, but wonderfully atmospheric. Now, of course, we could journey back here, if you like this video, and we could come here in the dead of night. Now, why we should do it, I'm not so sure, but I'm sure we would feel a little bit more out of the sunshine, where the memory of the land, the memory of the church truly would be alive for the sensitives within us to feel. Now, you may or you may not know that so many of the very old churches here in England were actually built on the sites of pagan ceremonial sites, and oftentimes the yew, now I will stand to be corrected, but I do believe, at least in part, this is a part of an old yew tree, spelt Y-E-W, please God. All it would suggest here is this church was placed at a site that was already heavily used by people from hundreds of years ago that followed the pagan religion. Big question is, of course, are you interested in the witches of the past?